Armor upgrades, game mechanic refinements, new creature AI systems, new mutations, burgle phones, base raids, bestiaries, build pieces, insight into the creative process,
Oh my.
and a whole lot more. The appearance by Grounded game director Adam Brennecke on last week's Casually Grounded dev stream revealed a ton of information related to the future of the game. Some of the new content that was discussed was easily observable and explained, but other things were more cryptic. So let's dive down and analyze everything to account for some of those anxiety-inducing ambiguous answers that might have left you astonishingly asking more questions than were anticipated upon by using the accuracy of a wave made up of 1,000 arrows.
There's a lot of surprises that are still in store for players.
And if you're looking to have some of those surprises spoiled, then you've come to the right channel, because Grounded themed, Grounded related content is basically all that I do here, and if you're a fan of that, you could do me a huge favor by defeating the like button with a sweet knife kick, and I hope that this video earns your subscription today.
Whoa, I'm not just small, I'm tiny. This is freaking awesome!
What up? It's Tiny Pirate Gaming, blasting back from the future with a brand new Grounded update video covering everything we know so far about Grounded's next update, its future release schedule, as well as some insight into the game's development. There's a ton to go over, so let's start with some basic announcements.
We are going to be at PAX East in April, and we will be having our Casually Grounded stream on Saturday. I think it's the 20, what day is that?
April
exactly?
23rd, 1 p.m.
April
Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific.
PAX East is a gaming convention that will be held in Boston, and based off of what we learned from the dev team, it seems like they're planning to reveal something special on the main stage.
Yep, we'll be on the main stage, and we'll be showing off some new stuff there, so...
Really cool stuff, they say. The game's already got really cool stuff. Can they be more specific, or do I have to find a power-up and do some super streamer speculation instead?
We cannot tell you when the next update will be, but what we can tell you is on April 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be showing off some cool things during our PAX panel.
Okay, I see how it is. If really cool things is all I have to work with, then you leave me no choice. Serious super streamer speculation. Oh wait, there's one more announcement.
We hit 10 million players.
It's over 9,000!
I suspect that one of two things could be revealed at PAX East. Either it will be a simple reveal of the next refinement-themed update, moving the game closer to version 1.0, which is planned for sometime later this year.
And along with that, we announced that we're, working towards our end of early access, and we're working towards that later this year.
Or maybe, just maybe, we're going to get a Grounded 1.0 trailer and perhaps even a release date. But hey, this is all just theorizations, a series of Tiny Pirate Gaming theorizations. Thanks for watching, and continue. Another reason I'm inclined to speculate that we could be getting a 1.0 trailer is due to the fact that the dev team at Obsidian Entertainment is focused specifically, meteorically, and monolithically upon refining, revising, and finalizing the game to conclude the game preview period. An era of Grounded history that I call the prelude to the preview's purging.
Working towards our end of early access.
This means that the team right now is working to iron out any gameplay mechanic wrinkles, and that now the focus is directed on how to best present the story of the Grounded adventure through the mechanics of the game and the layout of the play space, or building the game's critical path.
Is that we're a small team, right? So trying to finish up the game has been a challenge with also releasing content. So a lot of the team is really focused on that final release, doing a lot of stuff with the story, what we call the critical path of the game, which is the steps required to get from the beginning to the end, what is the main quest of the game. And so we're making a lot of revisions to that, and you'll even in the next update that we release, you'll be seeing changes here and there.
Something worth noting here is the emphasis on changes to the game. I've seen it implied that these sorts of statements indicate that the next update will be small, but I think that's assuming too much. A lack of visible content such as yard expansions or new creatures does not mean necessarily a lack of additions, which could range from new region layouts in already existing areas, or new game mechanics to enhance the gameplay experience. It is specifically said that the update will feel different, not that it will be small.
The next update will probably be quite a bit different than our previous updates.
I have speculated and theorized for a long time on my Twitch channel that the game devs have purposefully been holding back content to make version 1.0 feel fresh for all players once it is released. And also that as we move closer to version 1.0, most of the development will be focused on refining the game mechanics as opposed to introducing new content. Because Grounded is now entering its refinement period, the Grounded team is always looking for feedback on how to best adjust and revise the mechanics of the game.
Taking a look at getting more feedback on stuff that we feel maybe isn't hitting the spot.
When you give feedback, try to be as concise but also detailed as you can with your suggestions so that the developers understand clearly and specifically what you're describing and how or why you feel it would enhance the player experience in Grounded. The dev team is very open to hearing our opinions on the quality of the game. They want it to be as amazing and enjoyable as we do, and in order for them to give us what we want, they need to know as much as they can to work with. As an example of the importance of emphasizing detail, 2 things happened live on stream regarding the questions that a dev thinks about when they hear ideas and suggestions. When asked about dedicated servers, Adam Brennecke replied with a question to the community.
The one thing I'm curious about, just it's kind of open-ended question, is like, and I could probably guess, but I'm just curious from you all, like what types of things would you use a dedicated server for? What kind of features are you looking for dedicated servers?
The short answer is obviously for community shared worlds, and Adam most likely knew that, but also explained the difficulties of crossplay with those platforms and dedicated servers. Again, this is all speculation on my part, but perhaps a part of Grounded's existence is linked to the Game Pass, and maybe, just maybe, part of that deal between Obsidian and Microsoft is connected to maintaining crossplay on Grounded. Well, that and dedicated servers require additional financial expenditures, usually requiring some form of microtransaction, a practice that is frowned upon by most gamers and seemingly Obsidian Entertainment as well. When suggesting ideas or features, the more you can explain to emphasize the positives of your point, the easier it is for others to best understand and therefore give you what you want, as was witnessed in regards to additional build rotations.
I'm seeing some questions for a lot of the builders. Are there any plans to add additional rotation points for building parts so people could get more creative with their builds?
Additional rotation parts. Can you be more clear on that one?
Can you elaborate? All right, rotations. So walls can rotate 8 times, but all other pieces can only rotate 4 times. So if you wanted roof parts to be on a different rotation, you can only do it in 4 different directions.
That is a great question. I have no idea. I can bring it up with Brian, who is our building programming master. So I'm not quite sure what the solution there would be. But thank you for the feedback. I'll definitely pass that on to the team.
As you can see here, the first question about building rotation confused Adam because it was too vague, but once it was elaborated on, it made sense, and the game director, the captain of the ship, knew exactly who to seek out on the crew to address this suggestion. The more that they know, the more they can do to give us what we want. That covers the big announcements, but now let's get into the meals and dew droplets of everything and talk about some of the new content that we are likely to get by the release of version 1.0.
I have to say the next update will not be our 1.0 update.
Some of this new content could come in the next update, or it might be for version 1.0, but it's still content news, which is just as juicy as finding an orb of raw science.
Delicious magical science!
It was mentioned a few times that the combat system was going to be refined and adjusted.
Fixes to combat. We are doing, in preparation for our 1.0 release, we're doing a lot of other changes that will be coming in. You know, I think combat and combat difficulty has been one of those things that we are poring over all the feedback. It's one of those things that we feel internally isn't quite where it needs to be. So we're making some more adjustments and want more of your feedback, good or bad. We're making a lot of changes to how armor works, weapon damage. We're looking at durability. That's been a big issue. So we're making some adjustments on that. Stamina is another thing that we're taking a good look into. And Andy and I discussed this stuff for a long time, like lots of hours of discussion on what to try out. We try out a lot of different things, but I think we're making some good changes with stamina as well.
I suspect that these changes could be related to damage types and creature weaknesses, and it seems that the team is also working on balancing the stamina drain or recharge in a better way. Another piece of new content that was discussed was something the community has been wondering about since the addition of the weapon upgrades, that being armor upgrades.
Doing in our next update, as I'm sure a lot of you have guessed, I've seen this discussed in a lot of places. We are doing armor upgrades, so that's a really cool thing. They're going to work probably slightly differently than our weapon upgrades, but we do have armor upgrades coming in.
How will it work? What will we need? Probably a Burgle chip and a new utility build, and maybe we could even see a return of the long lost and forgotten armor glue, which fixed all armor back in the ancient eras of Grounded's earliest days. Are you sure it was a whole different universe? I don't know, Sparkle. I'm pretty sure we just used it as a Mandalorian effect joke in the last video. Anyway, I guess we'll just have to wait and find out, but another system they are currently refining is the Creature AI.
We're looking at Creature AI, making lots of adjustments. So I think that's something that's also coming, and we'd like feedback from everyone who's playing on that end as well.
What sort of AI changes could this mean? Will it be new enemy attacks, new perfect block or stun animations, or could it be something more dangerous? Something I myself have been wondering about since the early days of the Grounded game preview.
You know, I don't want to say too much about it, but like some of the improvements we are making to AI, I'm pretty excited about. Like, you guys know what it is.
Yeah.
But
sorry, chat. No spoilers.
Do you see that? They all chuckled mischievously. What are they not telling us? I theorize that this Creature AI change worth chuckling over could indicate that maybe, perhaps, this is a cryptic indication that enemy insects and most likely spiders could be getting the ability to better climb over objects around the yard and maybe even over the walls of your base. And this new mechanic could be connected to another new game mechanic that I'll talk about in just a few minutes.
When I say base defense, it also is just something where like we're getting creatures to like push back a little bit too. So in part of the general like gameplay, like just getting creatures to be a little more similar to like ants stealing food, more kind of behaviors like that. So we are looking at ways of improving those systems.
This indicates to me that the Creature AI will likely now target certain inventory items stored at your base, which connects directly to another new game feature that was revealed, base raids. A base raid system has been discussed by the player community for a while now, and it seems that whatever changes are being made to the Creature AI will not only be connected to refining the combat system, but will also be associated with whatever triggers the creatures to attack your base. And if creatures are going to attack bases, then perhaps, as I mentioned earlier, part of their new AI could mean that they will potentially be able to climb walls.
Which is base defense and adding more reasons to build, your mushroom walls and other things. So we're looking at that. We're making a lot of improvements in that area.
The base raid / base defense system mechanic appears to work complementary with the building mechanics and would encourage players to upgrade their base components, much like their gear, as they progress through the game's critical path. This might indicate that the base assaults could steadily get more difficult as the player proceeds through the main story, Or, the difficulty spikes in base defense events could also be triggered by the rarity level of the items stored in your supply boxes or supply piles. But for now, we can only speculate, and in case you don't like the idea of your builds being attacked by enemy creatures, then this might make you feel better.
One from Jade would base defense be optional? Or is it something that's just going to happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. It is something that we are currently looking at. We know that base defense can be something that players don't want to deal with, so we are looking at solutions for that. So that is something that is in the cards, like looking at having that option.
I'm going to predict now that the base raid options will likely be a part of the custom game settings, but will be a permanent addition to the survival/story game modes, and maybe even a key part of the critical path. Another very exciting piece of news that comes in connection to base raids is that new traps and base defense builds are being developed.
Well, with the addition to base defense, does that mean the game's going to get more traps?
That's something that we're looking at our traps and seeing how we can improve that system as well. Because you have to deal with the insects somehow, right? You gotta have some traps to kill them.
I personally think that new traps have already been developed along with a bunch of other content for a while now, but it has been intentionally held back from the game preview to provide a fresh experience to all players upon the release of version 1.0. Keep this thought in mind because we'll be revisiting this theorization again later in the video. Because now it's time to really speculate on a topic of great interest to myself and maybe others. The mystery of what was Adam drinking during the dev stream.
That's a ridiculous amount of work that's going into the 1.0 release of the game. If given the go, there's no plans for very small gorillas being added to the game.
Was it a Coca-Cola? A Dr. Pepper? I need to know for absolutely no reason. Let me know what you think it was down in the comments because to be perfectly honest, I have no idea. But what I do know is that a ton of other future grounded content was talked about, like the ability to change the settings of a custom game world even after starting it.
Options, we have that screen where you can view the custom game options. You'll be able to change the ones that can be changed. It's a little bit challenging when you're changing a lot of that stuff in the middle of a game. It can destroy some stuff. So we have to kind of be careful on what you can change within the game, but I know that's been a big ask from the community. It's been a big ask internally on the team to be able to switch that stuff up. Difficulty is going to be one of those things that you can switch. So if you feel like the game's too hard or too easy, you can switch that.
This sort of change could be a lot of fun for players like myself who enjoy producing player-generated content such as mazes or combat PvP minigames for other players to participate in when they visit your yards. And it would be very helpful for my current project, the Dev Dungeon 0.2.0, a massive maze that's an expansion on my original maze design that was featured last year during the Grounded 1-year anniversary dev stream. Except this time, the devs aren't going to find their way out. Especially if I can turn off settings in the custom world I'm building it in when it is complete. Anyway, if you'd like to see a video showcasing ideas for player-generated content, then I highly recommend checking out the highlight video from the Grounded 1-year anniversary, which is conveniently linked down in the description for your viewing pleasure. Moving on, we also learned about a quality of life change that I call the Burgle phone.
Is that you no longer have to return to Burgle for the science shop, molars, and what's the third thing? Burgle quests. So you don't have to actually return to the Oak lab for that stuff. You can access that from any of the outpost stations where the analyzers are.
This feature I think was originally suggested in the Grounded Discord and is designed to help make the critical path of the game flow more fluidly without requiring the player to make daily treks to Oak Lab for new Burgle quests. Because when it comes to the 3Bs of Grounded, building, bashing, and burgling, the latter is still the only way to truly generate overly excessive amounts of raw science.
Delicious magical science.
We also learned that a creature guide detailing enemy strengths, weaknesses, and weak points was in the works for Grounded 1.0.
But we have made a lot of ground on the what we call, it's not called the Bestiary within the game, but that's pretty much what it is. So it's a way for players to be able to see strengths and weaknesses of creatures. Andy has done a lot of work on adding additional weak points. I think that's something that people caught on with a couple of our insects have weak points that if you hit the weak point you get extra damage.
Weak points? I never knew! I wonder what other undiscovered secrets still exist, waiting to be discovered. Because that's what you do with once they're discovered, they can't be undiscovered anymore. So when they're undiscovered, it's when you don't know, and then when you discover them, you know them, and now they've been discovered. Hooray! I don't know. But anyway, they also mentioned new mutations and revisions planned for existing mutations, along with new build features for your base building projects.
Maybe mutation changes or new mutations added to the game in the next update or so?
I'm sure we'll add some and change. We're always looking at that stuff to tweak it. So if you have feedback on something that's not working or working too well or not working well enough, we're always making small adjustments to those. And yeah, we'll definitely add more mutations.
Get mushroom floor pieces, please.
Mushroom floor pieces. I can't say one way or the other if we're gonna do that. There's various there's plans for additional building pieces, of course. I'm not sure if that's in. I don't want to say for sure one way or the other, but thank you for the feedback on that.
I've said it before, and I'll likely, probably, and most definitely say it again. I strongly feel, and have for many moons predicted, that there is a bunch of content being reserved for the full release of Grounded 1.0. Now, when it comes to breaking down some of the new content reveals about the ongoing Grounded project...
Yeah, there's so much. Where can we even get started here?
Whether it's developing new assets, producing animations, filming, scripting, editing... The creative process takes a lot of time and has many moving parts, and keeping track of it all is hard enough. Never mind trying to detail all the changes as they're happening. And I'm not even talking about Grounded, I'm talking about my own project, Tiny Pirate Gaming Saves the Streamiverse, currently in production. It's due to my own experience with the creative process that I strongly feel that when the devs say stuff like this,
there's a lot of surprises that are still in store for players.
They mean it. And if they do, it means we've got a bunch of serious surprises in store for the future. Another aspect of the creative process that resonates with me is in regards to how a project changes as you build it from the ground up, and how sometimes what you originally thought the project would be changes into something very different as it is refined during production.
Game development and developing Grounded and just in general, like everything changes so fast. And 6 months from now, I might have some other crazy idea for where to, what to do next. So, I've no idea. Even Grounded, like just how it came to be. That was, that a week before I started working on Grounded, I had no idea, and I would have never guessed I'd be working on a game like this. So.
But what does any of this mean for the players in the future? Well, it likely means that not only has content been held back intentionally for version 1.0, but it could also mean that the layout of pre-existing areas could be dramatically different upon conclusion of the game preview. If we assume that the entire yard is going to receive an overhaul, then it could be the reasoning behind the dev team's lack of promises in regards to game preview saves.
We're going to try our best. I don't want to make any promises on that because there are a lot of changes. Even in the next update, you'll start seeing a lot of early game quest changes. We're kind of gutting everything and building it slightly differently.
Gutting it? Building it differently? A different experience in the early game? Does that mean my old tutorials will become relics of a forgotten era in grounded history? ¿Por qué? This all could mean possibly a different yard layout, new lab expansions, extra unreleased creatures. It could mean a number of things. To me, it indicates that Grounded 1.0 has the potential to be so radically different from the game preview that early access saves won't be formatted properly to work in the full play space. And get ready to answer that phone because I called it early in the video and have been calling it for the past 6 months on my Twitch channel. They are holding back content until version 1.0.
Thing like content wise, it might feel light because we are saving a lot of those big content reveals for our final release.
Well, I sure hope somebody picks up that phone, because I f***ing called it!
Again, this held back content could have actually been ready a while ago, and this same idea is alluded to later on in response to a question about butterflies and gliders.
Or hey Adam, any plans for grasshoppers or butterflies? It'd be awesome to have a jumping bonus and a new glider type that can go like a little further.
We have talked about doing grasshoppers and crickets. I don't know if we'll get to those anytime soon. I know it's one of those on the wish list of mine as well. So I think that's something that we'll continue to kind of look at, because I do think, as you guessed, like, you know, crafting some cool stuff out of those jumping insects would be pretty fun. As for butterflies, can't say a whole lot about butterflies. We do have some plans. That's all I really want to say. I don't know if it's I'll just keep it at that. And additional gliders, we have messed around with additional gliders, and that's something that we've prototyped for a while. They just really never made the bubbled up to high priority for us. It's just one of those things that's been kind of on the backlog for a long time. Hopefully we get to, you know, making more gliders in the future, but it's something that's not a high priority thing right now for us.
What I gather from this is that grasshoppers are probably not going to be in version 1.0, but could come later with future content additions. Butterflies will probably be in the game, but they don't want to give away any spoilers and could be used to imply that perhaps along with butterflies, other creatures could appear to freshen up the early game experiences for veteran game preview players. And as far as I'm concerned about the new gliders, they are either trolling us because there's a whole glider slot and there's only one glider in the game, and to be honest, it makes you feel more like Mary Poppins floating around with an umbrella, because otherwise, I mean, it's no new gliders until after 1.0? It's not something you've been thinking about? You haven't been thinking about a whole equipment slot? I mean, a great glide mechanic would be so much fun, especially for player-generated content, which is why I think they're trolling us. Otherwise, it's a huge missed opportunity. Anyway, we also got confirmation that continued post 1.0 content is planned for Grounded, even going so far as to say the potential development that can be done to Grounded is infinite in scope and scale.
I wouldn't say wrapping up stuff, because I don't think we'll ever really wrap up stuff. Who knows what the future, you know, there's so many cool ideas. You know, Grounded world can be infinitely expanded on. I think that's what makes it so cool and exciting.
Infinitely expanded upon? Interesting. Fairly interesting. Because according to the Grounded feature board, Story Act 1 is differentiated from the full completable story. This could indicate that Grounded 1.0 is just the beginning of a continuing story arc that has room for growth and development with game mechanics and storytelling alongside expansion content well into the future. But hey, that's just a theory, a tiny pirate gamey. I know, I haven't covered that part yet. I was gonna do a bit, you know, sort of soften the blow. Because what we're about to cover now are things that will definitely, probably, and almost certainly not be in version 1.0. This does not mean they'll never be in Grounded for reasons previously discussed. It just means they're not going to be part of the content added during the transition from game preview to full-fledged video game. Dedicated servers, armor recycling, alternate costumes, pet system refinements, and weather.
A dedicated server question?
Yeah.
Is there any
Like
specifics?
any-
like just
any
dedicated
plans?
servers question mark?
Yeah, any plans for anything like that?
Yeah, it's been something that we've been working on, looking at solutions. I don't want to make any promises. We do have something that we are working on. It's not a dedicated server. The one kind of interesting thing with dedicated servers is that it doesn't really work very well with crossplay, which we found out. And we actually don't have a whole lot of programmers on Grounded, so we just don't have a lot of resources to really invest into expanding that. But we are working on something, so I'm not saying that we're not doing anything to address some of that. When you say dismantle, I'm assuming that means like breaking
recycle?
it down into
Yeah, I'm assuming recycling or
or
breaking it down, or armors you're not using anymore.
We haven't really talked about that, but that's an interesting idea.
Any plans for costumes or cosmetics for the teens other than armor?
We talked about it, but right now there's no plans for that. At least for the next little while. I think the team would love to make more cosmetic and more shirts and stuff, more costumes for the teens, because we love doing it. I think all the costumes are super cool. All the shirts and designs for everything has turned out really, really well. So I'm sure we have some more ideas in store, but right now there's no plans on doing more costumes for the characters.
So phase 1 was the first one for pets. How many taming phases do you think there will be?
Can you repeat that?
Well, because when we announced pets, like with the aphids and weevils, that was phase 1. Are there any plans for additional phases? For pet taming?
We want to continue to improve that. Currently, it won't be for a while, but we do want to improve our pets. So that's something that we are looking into.
There you go, Karate. Anything on weather?
No update on weather.
Either way, they have expressed the intention to continue updating Grounded, so who knows what the future holds. We might someday get a Pet and Wet update that expands on these mechanics. And finally, a question that's often been asked around the Grounded community since the earliest days of the game preview: will we go into the house?
Adam, it was always asked when the game first arrived, any discussion or further plans for the house to be entered, either DLC or a sequel?
Currently, there's no plans to enter the house.
The key word in that sentence was currently, because they also said there's room for infinite expansion, and this dev team has surprised me with their creativity and responsiveness to the community more times than I can count, so I wouldn't doubt their talent to be able to do it. But things like that take time to build, and right now their only focus is on version 1.0. Oh, and also,
Or to fire underwater, or throwing spears underwater?
You can't throw spears underwater.
Boom.
see, you can throw spears underwater. It is for true. I know, right? It's all very exciting. So what do you think of these speculations and theorizations? Do you have any of your own? If so, feel free to share them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Speculating about Grounded is one of my specialties, and I'm always interested in what everyone else around the community is thinking. Because if you're a fan of Grounded-themed, Grounded-related content that's usually presented in tutorial format, then you've found the right channel, because that's basically all that I do here, and if you enjoy that, then you could do me a huge favor by defeating the like button with a sweet knife kick, and I hope that this video earned your subscription today. So whether I see you here in the comments, over on the Twitch sphere, or someplace else across the Streamiverse, just know that I really appreciate all of your support, and thank you so much for watching. Until next time.
Arg, matey, watch your step. There be a tiny pirate here.
Oh, I forgot one more thing. There's one more thing. This is totally unscripted. I just came back and I'm recording this right now. The rocks. Ever since bombs got introduced into the game, I've been looking for these rocks. You find these rocks around the backyard. The most notable one is underneath the shrink ray where the orb weavers like to hang out. You can find it, it's sort of near the red anthill. There's actually 2 of these rocks down in the red anthill where they look like maybe at some point they're hiding a tunnel that all we'll need is the bomb to blow them up, but the devs have put non-explodable bombs there to prevent us from going down in there, and I'm sure in the game preview version there's not even anything coded there, but that doesn't mean in the 1.0 version it's the same thing. Anyway, this was further evidence to prove that I strongly believe the game devs are holding back content, whether it's additional tunnels, additional creatures, additional explorable regions, whatever it is. So I decided to include this because I remembered it and I got footage of the rocks. So here they are. If you discover any of these rocks, let me know in the comments. Join the Discord. Come yell at me over on the Twitch sphere and tell me I found a rock. One of those mysterious, maybe explodable rocks that may or may not be hiding some sort of super amazing special secrets for the future of Grounded. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.
Arg, matey, watch your step. There be a tiny pirate here.